A massive attempt at a cover-up seems to be underway. The National Disaster Management Authority coming out and saying that they did not receive the ISRO report. The ISRO reports went to the IMD. It is the IMD's responsibility to send those further to the NDMA and also to the Uttarakhand state government. Why is it so difficult to pin blame? It is at the end of the day the responsibility of the NDMA, a special body created to deal with national disaster management. And joining us tonight on center stage, the man who heads this body, Vice Chairperson of the NDMA, M. Shashidhar Reddy. Thank you very much, Mr. Reddy, for joining us at a time when several questions are being asked of the inability of the NDMA to rise to the challenge and to help those who are in distress in Uttarakhand. I want to begin, sir, by getting you to shed light on this massive controversy around the ISRO report. Yesterday, it was a forecast. We dug it out. Today, suddenly, that web page has been taken off. The reports are no longer accessible. There is a new section that has been introduced. It's now being called an experimental data project, not a forecast, which is what it was being called by ISRO yesterday itself. What is going on, Mr. Reddy?
Well, I think the controversy, as you have put it, is more a creation of the media. The IMD is the nodal agency in this country, which is mandated to issue observe weather and issue weather bulletins and also warnings pertaining to weather. IMD gets inputs from various sources, apart from its own observational facilities throughout the country. Now, beyond that, the ISRO report, that the warning that was being focused upon last night, and the manner in which it was put out, that a warning has been issued 16-17 hours prior to the disaster. I don't know what exactly it meant, but all the same, the timing of the warning was shown as 1 p.m. That is 7:30 hours GMT, and that was on Sunday. And I have subsequently looked at the MODEC, the website, and then what I found was that this document, it is a 2-page document. One is at 7:30, and then there is one at 1400 hours GMT. And I found that these documents were created on the 18th around 1 o'clock in the afternoon Indian time. And I have also further verified, because one thing I can say, I said it with authority yesterday when your correspondent spoke to me. Then subsequently,
so when those warnings were put out, Mr. Reddy, in the public domain is not the question. The question is not when ISRO put these up on its website. The question is, when was that forecast generated? We have spoken to officers in ISRO who have been calling us up. They are concerned they can't come online because they can't come on air because of the massive furor over our story. But they tell us that these reports are generated every single day and forwarded to the IMD, whose responsibility it is to then forward it to the Ministry of Home Affairs, to the NDMA, to the state governments. Now, the reality is they might have been put on the ISRO website. So what you're talking about is something completely different. They might have been put in public domain 48 hours later, because ISRO was saying that this is the information that was available to us prior to the cloudburst taking place. That is the core point, and the explanation that you've given doesn't answer that core question. Was the information available with ISRO? The answer still is yes. Maybe it came into the public domain 48 hours later, but that is immaterial, Mr. Reddy.
Well, let me tell you one thing. I would also like to go back to what was said. That you said that that NDMA was provided with a hard copy with this information on the 16th at 1 p.m., which is not correct. And whether ISRO has made it available to the IMD is an issue that I will not be able to answer. And the question of NDMA or anybody sleeping over this is it's a very uncharitable
But
statement.
Mr. Reddy, that still doesn't answer the principal question. The principal question tonight is only this. Was the ISRO aware of the fact that there would be a cloudburst? Did they predict the geographical coordinates, the longitudes and the latitudes for when this would happen? The answer to that question still is yes. That information was available within the government system. What we are seeing now is a game of passing the buck. ISRO says it went to the IMD. IMD failed to send it to the NDMA. Now, as far as people are concerned, those who are watching the broadcast this evening, they think of the government as one. This information existed within the governmental system. This information was not acted on in time. And that, sir, is the principal question. And you, as the person whose responsibility it is to manage disasters, needs to answer for why one wing of your government is not talking to the other and why that information is not being circulated internally on time, Mr. Reddy. That is the fundamental question.
You've not allowed me to complete what I wanted to say, Rahul.
Sir.
My information is that the first image about this was available from the ResourceSat satellite on the 17th of June. Subsequently, from 18th onwards, 2-3 other satellites where images, the remote sensing images were made available from 2-3 other satellites, including ResourceSat 2, a micro remote sensing satellite, the Cartosat 2, and on the 20th, an image was also made available from a Canadian site of the same incident. So this is the fact of the thing. This is what I have information from ISRO that there was this was the first image was received only on the 17th.
So have you seen now, the ISRO website today, Mr. Reddy? There is a new section. It pops up when you go to the ISRO webpage. It says, especially when you talk about their satellite imaging for weather, it says this is experimental data. It is not for forecast purposes. Very clearly, there is a cover-up that is going on. This wasn't there yesterday. The ISRO website said this is our forecast at 7:30 GMT on the 16th of June. This is the information that was available with ISRO. This was said not by headlines today, not by analysts, not by weather experts. This was said by a government agency. Why is it suddenly the websites are being changed, pages are being encrypted, suddenly a cover-up seems to be underway, Mr. Reddy?
No, I don't see this as a cover-up. I see this as a clarification that has come from ISRO, and the information that I have from ISRO is that the first image of this event was available to them on the 17th from the ResourceSat. And let me also say that this is not a real-time thing that happens. There are images whenever we look at past images. Any time we want to look at any site of disaster, there are a set of images that ISRO will be able to take out from its archives and make it available. So, to what extent this image was made available to the IMD in order to and IMD is able to utilize this for making a forecast, and this is exactly what I have called the IMD on the 19th of this month, of last month, and to review what arrangements they have in place, because we need an observational facility, capability, which is lacking. Entire Uttarakhand, there are only 20 automatic weather stations. No, there is no way of knowing how much it's going to rain and where.
Sir,
we had a cloudburst event going back to. No, let me complete, Rahul. I mean, this is a serious thing. Let me complete. There was a cloudburst event in Leh in August 2010. In Chogalamsar is the place where it is the worst affected. There was no information about the rainfall there, but I was told that the nearest Air Force center there recorded a mere 12.2 millimeters or something. So the lack of observational facilities of the IMD. Now I would like to draw a comparison to Andhra Pradesh, where the state government is setting up. This is not the IMD, but the state government is setting up about 300 weather stations at a 10-kilometer grid to get real-time observations of rainfall as it happens, and that is connected, and they have a modeling capability going back to 2009 when we had the Krishna floods, 25 lakh cusecs of water, very heavy flood, 10,000 year return period. The death toll there remained less than 100 because all these things could be integrated, and inundation maps
Mr.
could
Reddy,
be
the
prepared.
principal
And,
question
on the
remains
basis of
unanswered. This is a claim that is not being made by a weather expert. I would ask our producers to put out what ISRO had on its own website. ISRO hasn't denied that this is our website. Let's take a look at what ISRO said on its own website. It says 7:30 GMT, 16th of June. This is the forecast that ISRO had available. That fundamental question, Mr. Reddy, you are still not being able to answer. Now you are saying that ISRO is telling you, I don't know what they are telling you, that on the 17th we had this information, on the 20th you are saying some Canadian satellite gave you some information. This is MOSDAQ, it is existing within the ISRO system. Their information was on their systems. That is the information that has been broadcast. That principal question, sir, still remains unanswered. Why is it that action was not taken? You had 16 hours to act. That information existed within the governmental system, sir.
Oh, well, let me clarify one thing. To say that what you have said last night, that NDMA was given this information, is wrong. It was not done so. Now, my information from ISRO, I mean, just as you have information,
I'm quoting information that is publicly. You are quoting some privately known information. I am putting out in the public domain what is known to everyone, that this was on the ISRO website. This is the information we had available on the 16th of June. This is ISRO saying so in a public space on their own website. They cannot now go back on that information. This is ISRO telling the government. You're only finding a technical clause to hang on to, that the IMD never passed it on to the NDMA, which, is not an explanation that all the thousands who've died, the thousands who are missing, their relatives will buy. If the left hand of the government knows and the right hand is not told by the left hand, well, that's a problem the government needs to deal with. That's a problem the IMD and the NDMA needs to resolve. As far as people are concerned, 1,000 people are dead, and there's a lot of anger in the country because of that.
Yes, I agree. It has been a great tragedy, and people certainly have a right to be angry, and then there are things to be understood and explained. And certainly, if the point of that IMD was made aware of this, IMD has come out with their advisories. This is on one side. I mean, on one hand, and I just want to clarify that NDMA as control room never receives any warnings or any such advisories from any other institutions except the IMD for weather related things. They are the nodal agency for cyclones, the Central Water Commission, which is the nodal agency for floods, and the INCOIS, which issues the tsunami early warning. So this is on one side. On the other hand, there was also this issue that nothing has been done. I have seen footage of people talking on camera that announcements were made by local administration even at 11:30 in the morning on that day, saying that people should move to safer places. Now, this is an issue that we'll have to be looking at. And while I do agree that if there is any lack of coordination in terms of early warning, let me also make it very clear that this is not the first time that a Chardham Yatra is being held. Things have been going on. And in a situation like this, I don't say that the local administration has not acted. We do not know. This has to be looked at. And if they have acted, what is the advisory that is going to be given? That you move to safer places. And the biggest threat in the event of a cloudburst is of landslides occurring along the route. And then no government would like people, tourists, yatris, whoever it is, to be stranded on the roads of inaccessible terrain where it will be difficult to reach any help if people in large numbers are stranded. So the first thing that people would be advised would be to stay in safe places, and under the circumstances along the Yatra route, towns and cities like Srinagar, Guptkashi, Gaurikund, Rambada, and Kedarnath itself. People have been asked to stay safe because they will not travel. Even those, I suspect that even those people who had finished their Yatra would not have moved out venturing
But
into
what
the
you are
inclement
saying is
weather
different from
because
what
of the
happened
fear
on the
of
ground.
landslides.
So I traveled to Kedarnath, I was
No,
in
I mean,
Gochar. We spoke to people who were stranded on the ground, and several of those who survived said no advance warning was given. Till before the time you came on this broadcast, the
Rahul,
government wasn't
no,
even prepared to accept that it is possible to predict that there will be a cloud burst. It's only after ISRO put out that warning that the government is saying yes, that information was available, but the IMD didn't pass it on. Before this, whether it is the NDMA, whether it's the Home Ministry, whether it is the IMD, the Space and Technology Ministry, the Science and Technology Ministry, or the Uttarakhand government, everyone has been saying we don't have the technology to predict cloud bursts. In fact, one ISRO officer who we spoke to said that the whole purpose of ISRO doing these satellite monitoring, passing on the remote sensing information, is for bodies like IMD to be able to act, which is the reason why these satellites were sent up in space, which is the reason why the scientists who are working so hard to generate this information do the job they do. It is really, really, really irksome and very, very, it's something that really is very, very irksome for people when such information just falls through the cracks. There seems to be an ocean of miscommunication within the government, with one agency not talking to the other, not passing on information to the other on time, sir.
No, I share your concern. I definitely, I'm one of those. We've always been talking about better coordination between different agencies, the hydrometeorological agencies of the country, the WMO, the World Meteorological Agency, also spends a lot of time on dealing with issues relating to coordination between the IMD, which is the meteorological agency, and the CWC in India, which is the hydrological agency. So world over, there are issues of coordination, and it is not something that we need to be addressing this. And it is precisely for this reason that I had called for a meeting of the senior officers of IMD and the CWC immediately on the 19th of June itself, to look at what is happening and then what needs to be put in place, and all possible information. There are more radars that need to be put in place. They are coming with a proposal on what needs to be done. Now, I would like to compare this to a situation going back to 2004. In 2004, when the Indian Ocean tsunami, which claimed 230,000 people all over the North Indian Ocean region, and more than 16,000 people died on the east coast of India, we didn't have a warning center. And it was subsequently the government of India set up a world-class tsunami warning center.
No, one second. There was a tsunami you set up Sir, there was a tsunami, you set up a tsunami warning center. On the 19th, you called these meetings to talk about the floods. Why did these meetings not take place before the floods came and struck? Sir, that is the important question. In the period that you had.
Let me complete. Let me complete. When it took 30 months for the government to set up a tsunami early warning center. Yes, questions could be asked why we did not do it earlier. I can tell you that, because we did not realize that this would be a serious problem. Nobody, it is because of that we subsequently set up the tsunami early warning center. And now with this system that has come, now we need to ensure a system of better observational capabilities and also forecasting capability, which the
but what you're saying is obvious. That's the reason a body like the NDMA exists. The fact that you need radars, you need observational facilities is the most obvious thing. Why was this not done before the floods happened? There were floods in Uttarakhand earlier as well. There was a cloudburst a couple of years ago. All of this should have been done in advance instead of waiting for a big tragedy to happen, Mr. Reddy. That's the principal question.
I do agree, but let me see. You should also understand about the Disaster Management Act, what the NDMA is mandated, what the NDMA puts in place. We have guidelines on various disasters, and on the basis of which the ministries in the government of India are supposed to prepare their plans, and the states also need to prepare their plans on the basis of the guidelines that have come out. Well, it's not a these guidelines are not notified, advisory in nature, but then a lot of issues have been covered by NDMA when these guidelines, with wide consultation of people and then experts from all over the country, people who have people who are from ISRO, from National Remote Sensing Center, from the IMD, from the CWC.
Mr. Reddy, let's take a look at what the CAG report says. The CAG has been scathing in its criticism of the NDMA. The CAG report says, and I quote now, the performance of the NDMA in terms of project implementation has been abysmal. So far, no major project undertaken by the NDMA has been completed. It was noticed that NDMA selected projects without proper groundwork, and as a result, either the project was abandoned midway or were incomplete after a considerable period. This a scathing indictment of your work coming from another government agency, this time the Comptroller and Auditor General.
Let me, Rahul, you're jumping from one thing to another, which is not right. You're looking at guidelines which need to be and the guidelines which are prepared by the NDMA were in consultation with the topmost experts, scientists, academic institutions, government, and everybody. So it is wrong to presume that NDMA has not done anything. We have come up with guidelines which are internationally acclaimed. A lot of hard work has gone in, and those guidelines need to be implemented.
So is this not an independent assessment of the CAG of the NDMA's work?
Let me.
Yes, is this not what the CAG said about your work?
Let me come to the CAG report. I am coming to the CAG report. I appreciate the CAG report. For the first time, they have recognized that disaster preparedness is an important issue. There has to be a change of mindset in the at all levels, whether it's a political leadership or the administrative setup or even the common man going to the communities. Now, yes, coming to the implementation of projects, there are only 2 projects being under implementation right now. A project can be implemented only if it is sanctioned and approved. There are only 2 projects. The first project that NDMA is implementing is the National Cyclone Risk Mitigation Project, a World Bank assisted project. This was to be implemented in 9 coastal states and 4 union territories along the coastline. Unfortunately, no state came forward, and it was finally only 2 states, Andhra Pradesh and Orissa, who came up with their investment proposals in an appropriate form, and then we are pushing through. The states are the implementing agencies. We are just coordinating it. The second project that we are implementing is a pilot project on national school safety. This is under implementation right now. Beyond that, we have contemplated certain projects, proposed it to the Home Ministry.
So let me quote to you what the CAG report says. Let me quote, sir. In many cases, NDMA realized midway that some other agency was already executing projects with similar objectives. Timelines in most of these projects were absent, and where they were given, they were not adhered to. Sir, this is the reality of the way the NDMA has been functioning over the last several years, using up hundreds of crores of taxpayer money. It's not headlines today that is saying it. This is coming from the CAG, sir.
I will also tell you the kind of about the CAG report. You please look at table 1.1 on page 3. They have listed the major disasters in the last 10 years. You go to Maharashtra floods in 2005. I would like to ask you, is there a mention of the Mumbai floods, which happened 944 millimeters of rainfall in a 24-hour period, which disrupted life, thousands of people died, and then the kind of disruption to the financial capital? There is not even a mention. The CAG report has not taken note of a major event like Mumbai flooding, which never happened anywhere.
So what's the point that you're making? You're not denying what the CAG report says.
Let me tell you. I have not completed, Rahul.
Yes.
I have not completed, Rahul. Let me complete. Now, this is not fair. The next thing is, go to 2009. We had this, I referred to this earlier in this, when I was talking about the network of rainfall gauges that the government of Andhra Pradesh is setting up. The 2009 Krishna floods, one in a 10,000 year return period, 25 lakh cusecs of water is the kind of flood we've talked about. There is not even a mention about that. So an attempt was made by the CAG. I appreciate it. I understand. But they have not been able to. I think they needs to be sensitized. It's not Mr. Vinod Rai who prepared this report. There are people who have been doing this job. They need to be sensitized about what is big and what is small. You can always. There are shortcomings. I'm prepared to accept it, and we'll work on improving that and live up to the expectations with which this institution has been created. We have a set of dedicated people, committed people. I have been a member of the National Disaster Management Authority from 2005 onwards. I've been a founding member, reappointed later and elevated later as vice chairman. And with a deep sense of responsibility, I can tell you there are many things lacking. There needs to be a better administrative appreciation. routine bureaucratic things should be eased out. There are many other things that need to be smoothened. We are taking advantage of the CAG report to bring it to the government's notice about how NDMA can be more effective. It's a new body after all, and then there are many other issues which are linked. It's not, NDMA is not ministry. It is only a body that coordinates, and then what is put up, the National Disaster Communication Network is a proposal which no other ministry has thought about. We proposed at the national level. Now the Home Ministry felt that we could perhaps do it on a pilot basis, and we have therefore rescaled it, and we are now doing it. There are many innovative ideas
in the last few
and
days,
many things that we have come up. NDMA for the first time. Let me complete, Rahul. Let me complete, Rahul. For all that bashing that you have done last night, I think the least is let me complete and present my views. Unfortunately, I have said earlier in the media, the kind of discussions that take place on the television media, enough time is not available for us to counter all those things and set the perspective right. And I think I should take advantage of this today. Let me tell you what NDMA has done. For the first time in this country, there is a document which talks about urban flooding as a different disaster. We've been talking about floods in the riverine areas where villages get drowned, the crops are lost, and it's a different kind of strategies that different causes for that, and different kind of strategies that are required to do it. If NDMA has for the first time brought out, and I take the credit for it, because as member of the NDMA, I was responsible for this subject, and then we've been able to. So while I admit there are shortcomings which need to be made up, but let me tell you, it's not because any carelessness or recklessness. We have to work with the system. It's a new organization. There are teething troubles. How big is the organization? How it needs to be put in place? There were a lot of issues that had to be sorted out. And I welcome the CAG report, and anything that has been commented, we take it with all humility. And let me tell you, none of us are here because to waste government money. We are responsible people.
Sir, questions have been asked. Before I end this interview, Mr. Reddy, questions have been asked about the composition of the NDMA. The fact that this seems to have become a habitat for babus to have a 5-star pension. The fact that experts in the field, those who worked in disaster relief, rehabilitation, those who understand technology, they're the ones who are being, instead of political appointees, instead of people from the ruling government who are serving politicians, there should be real experts who understand disaster management. They're the ones who should be heading the body. Very serious questions have been asked. There's been a lot of commentary.
Let me tell you one thing, Rahul. Let me tell you one thing, Rahul.
Sir.
When I had the guidelines on urban flooding released, we had Dr. Sailesh Nayak, Secretary, Ministry of Earth Sciences, and a very eminent scientist in this country. He made a statement there that if he was asked to prepare a document like this, he would have failed. I don't agree with you. The fact that such a document could be produced, and it has come under my I was leading those efforts, and this is a contribution not just of me. I don't claim any individual credit for it, but it is a contribution of hundreds of scientists and experts. Let me also tell you, I have had occasions when professors from IITs in this country, they have come, when they listen to me, they said, when we listen to Mr. Shashidhar Reddy, we learn a lot of new things. I have provided a new direction, and I have studied abroad. I have an exposure. I was the Minister for Environment, Science and Technology 20 years ago. To say that I am a layman, a ruling party politician is not a very charitable thing, and I am not prepared to take it lying down. I am prepared to face any kind of discussion on this with any experts, and of course this is something which needs to be, it will be the people who will judge, and ultimately I am confident of what I am doing. I am doing it with full commitment. I have stayed in the NDMA while the guidelines were being prepared till 4:30 in the morning. There are occasions that I worked late in the night, and to say that over this ISRO report, it is a very uncharitable thing that was said, that NDMA was sleeping over it. For the last 2 weeks and odd, Rahul, I have gone for many days without lunch, without having my proper food, without having my proper sleep. We are committed to ensure that India becomes a safer place. The Prime Minister has always guided us to ensure better preparedness in this country. And I can assure you, and through your channel, the people of this country, that we will not spare any efforts to ensure there are lessons to be learned from this disaster or from any disaster happening anywhere in the world. And we will continue to learn lessons and to ensure that we have a better way of dealing with disasters in future when such disasters occur.
The true test, Mr. Reddy, of that commitment is in your ability to prevent the next disaster, mitigate what happens on the ground, rescue people in case there's a tsunami, there's a cloudburst, whatever it may be. How many people can you evacuate? How many lives can you save? How quickly can you react? That is the litmus test. You've spoken, you've said several things. At the end of the day, sir, your challenge is to ensure next time we don't have the same fiasco as we did in Uttarakhand. I think that is the litmus test. That is where you must rise to the challenge.
To assume that it was a fiasco, the rescue operations were not a fiasco. And I think the armed forces, the ITBP, and also the NDRF.
We salute what the armed forces did. The question is what happened prior and what happened immediately after.
Certainly there are lessons to be learned, and NDMA will be open. And I would also like to take opportunity now to say that even the media in this country needs to be sensitized. They need to know what's the difference between magnitude and intensity when they talk about an earthquake. There are many important issues which are not properly reported in the media. I take this opportunity. Let me tell you, we are going to set up a workshop for sensitizing media in this country, so that we will depend on the media. And let me tell you, I welcome criticism by the media. I always believe that criticism is like a blessing, because we have done something wrong. It is an opportunity for us to learn, and that should be the spirit.
Well, all I hope for, sir, all I hope for is that the ISRO scientists who've been speaking to us, who told us that they had this information, they tried to process it in the system, the fact that they were stonewalled, the fact that the information wasn't acted on, at least now going forward that information is acted on, and you live up to the promises that you've made to our viewers tonight, because I promise you I will pull out this interview from our archives, we will play it out to our viewers again, we will remind them of the promises that you made, Mr. Shashidhar Reddy, if you're not able to live up to the tall promises that you've made on center stage this evening. Thank you very much, sir, for coming out, taking criticism in your stride and giving viewers your perspective. We don't sit in on judgment one way or the other. It is at the end of the day for viewers to decide what they make of what you've said and what they make of the NDMA's response to this entire crisis. Thank you very much, Mr. Shashidhar Reddy, for joining us on center stage.
Thank you. Thank you.